Ethereum is gearing up to shock the entire market. I believe in 2025, Ethereum will go to over $10,000 per coin. And that move will trigger one of the greatest alt seasons of all time. In this video, I'm going to break down why Ethereum has lagged behind so far this cycle, what's about to change, and how you can prepare yourself for this upcoming alt season on a size we've never seen before. And at the end, I'll share my short-term Ethereum targets, what to look out for next, and how to find the right altcoins that will actually pump this alt season so you can finally make some money in crypto. I'm DK, and in 2023, I founded Crypto Crusaders, the greatest financial community out there. Over the last 2 years, we've grown to a community of almost 400 members and a total of $9 million plus invested across the world. Well, I've been in crypto for 5 years now, and last cycle in 2021, I publicly called multiple high return investments such as Dent, which was a 120x in 3 months. And so far this cycle, I've called numerous altcoins that I've gone on to do 10 to 60x gains again in a number of months. And you're probably asking yourself, what's the catch here? You know, this is too good to be true. Surely he can't be this good at crypto. How is it possible that he's not only dashingly handsome, caramel skinned, ridiculously charismatic, 6 foot, but he's also a crypto genius? Well, first of all, thank you very much. Stop glazing. Second of all, it's because I am extremely autistic. The reason the analysis is so high level is because aside from the autism, I spend over 12 hours a day researching, and every single day for the past 5 years, the majority of my time has been spent on charts, constantly looking into what the best coins are, best time to invest, narrative shifts, backtesting previous cycles, you name it. Every single thing possible somebody can do to optimize their knowledge in crypto, I have been doing. Now, you may call this an obsession, but it's a very lucrative obsession. Not just for me, but for anybody who will listen to this advice. Anyway, unfortunately, that's enough about me. I'm now going to get into why Ethereum has underperformed this cycle so far. So there are 3 main reasons Ethereum has underperformed this cycle. So the first and probably biggest reason is due to the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So the Ethereum ETF was approved 5 months after the Bitcoin ETF. And by that point, the elites had already had their Bitcoin ETF. You know, they've already got a piece of the digital asset cryptocurrency market. They're already performing. They're already making returns on Bitcoin ETF. So there's no need for this Ethereum ETF. Why would they buy the Ethereum ETF 5 months later when Bitcoin has all the hype? Bitcoin is the one in the news. Bitcoin is the one being mainly pushed by BlackRock. The Bitcoin ETF is all the hype. There is no incentive for them to buy the Ethereum ETF. And that is why the Ethereum ETF inflows were painfully low. So there's no USP. There is no benefit to the Ethereum ETF over the Bitcoin ETF. So there is no institutional inflow. That's the first reason. Bitcoin had institutional inflow. Ethereum did not have institutional inflow. So the second reason Ethereum has underperformed so much this cycle is that there's no modern use case. So back in the day, people used to trade on 2 main chains, Ethereum chain and Binance Smart Chain. And while Binance Smart Chain was cheaper, ETH was still king. However, along came Solana this cycle, significantly cheaper and faster than Ethereum network. Solana became the go-to chain for memes for this exact reason, because it's fast and it's cheap. And that is exactly what you want when trading meme coins. You don't want half of your investment going towards the fee, because people invest very small amounts into memes. And it's all about fast trading. You want to enter fast, exit fast. Meme coins became the main narrative in crypto, and therefore it was the main hype in crypto. And to buy meme coins, you had to buy Solana. The Solana price went sky high for 2 reasons. First of all, because you needed it to buy meme coins. And second of all, because people knew you needed it to buy meme coins. It was a wise investment. If you're seeing this huge hype around meme coins and you know that you have to buy Solana to buy these meme coins, it's a very logical investment to allocate some Solana, expecting this hype to continue. And continue it did, as I will show you here. So as you can see, this is the Solana chart. And since the bottom of the bear market in 2023, right at the start, until the peak in January 2025, it pumped 36x. 3,500%. And then if you look here, Solana against Ethereum, it's up 14x from the bottom. Just draw that on here. 1,300%. 14x against Ethereum. 36x up on its own, 14x up against Ethereum. And as you can see here, it has been in a gradual uptrend throughout this cycle. First huge parabolic move, and then gradually just still grinding up. And then, as you will see with this path, which I will cover later, things are changing. But that is the reality of this cycle so far, and why Ethereum has significantly underperformed Solana. Okay, so the third reason that Ethereum has underperformed so much this cycle, and probably the most important reason, is charts. Now, in all financial industries, nothing matters more than charts. No news, no narratives, nothing. Charts can predict global events. Charts can predict world wars. In fact, charts could have predicted COVID if you knew what you were looking for. Global charts looked like they needed a dip to a certain level. All COVID did was give them a reason to dip to that level. And then from there, they recovered and rallied. You get the point. Charts are very, very, very important. You need to understand that. Now, so far this cycle, Ethereum has been very, very bearish against Bitcoin. And that was obvious if you know technical analysis. So look, I'm just showing you the chart here. You look at this bit here. This was the top of last cycle for Ethereum against Bitcoin. Clear rejection of this resistance. But since then, where is the nearest support? And at support, you expect a bounce. So because this is Ethereum against Bitcoin, at support, you expect Ethereum to outperform Bitcoin. And at resistance, you expect Bitcoin to outperform Ethereum. But all of this is resistance. As soon as we lose this level here, this entire zone becomes resistance. And as you can see, we rejected it. So for this full cycle, this entire move here, it should have been obvious to you, if you know technical analysis, that Bitcoin will outperform Ethereum. The only time we could have got a bounce is around here. And we did get a small bounce. But again, as soon as we lose this support, it should be monumentally obvious to anybody who knows technical analysis that Ethereum will make a move down to here against Bitcoin. What does that mean? That means Ethereum will continue to underperform until it hits this zone against Bitcoin. Does that make sense? So here you can see a very, very, very strong zone here. You can see it acts as massive support here. It acts as massive support here. So that is the 2017 cycle, 2021 cycle. And again, it's acted as massive support here in 2025. But the point is, Ethereum was always going to underperform simply due to this chart. You could forget all the previous reasons I've given. If you just focus on this chart, it should have been painfully obvious to you, if you understand technical analysis of charts, that Ethereum isn't going to do jack until it hits that demand zone. And now we have hit that demand zone. And I'll get onto what that means later on in the video. Similarly, if we look at the Solana against Ethereum chart here, you can see that, I'll just go into the weekly. You can see that Solana against Ethereum went parabolic here, and since then, it's been in a gradual uptrend. So again, until it breaks this uptrend, and it's so clear, until it breaks below this uptrend and stays below, you should be expecting it to outperform Ethereum. If you're just watching, if you're not looking at these charts and you're just hoping, sitting there thinking, man, why isn't Ethereum doing anything? You're investing completely wrong. You need to understand this, or you need to learn from somebody who understands this. So, Ethereum has been on a clear downtrend against Solana, and Solana has been on a clear uptrend against Ethereum. And as you can see, it's now broken below this uptrend finally. And I will explain again what that means later on in the video. So to summarize, Ethereum's underperformed so far this cycle due to 3 reasons. Number 1 is the narrative of institutions. Institutions are not buying the Ethereum ETF yet because they have the Bitcoin ETF. They do not need the Ethereum ETF. They have their digital asset ETF. There's no USP to the Ethereum ETF yet. Secondly, it's lost its modern use case. Solana overtook so far in this cycle. And the third reason is due to pure charts. Throughout this entire cycle until now, Ethereum has looked bearish against every other coin. However, it's not all doom and gloom for Ethereum, thankfully. There are 3 massive reasons as to why Ethereum is primed to outperform from here on out until the end of the cycle. Firstly, and probably most importantly, is that the institutional narrative is finally here. So as you can see, I've got the article up here from Sunday, 1st of June. So this is fresh news. BlackRock is pushing for a staking ETF approval by the SEC. What does this mean? So, to put it very, very simply, I can tell you now, the Ethereum staking ETF will outperform the Bitcoin spot ETF. You need to understand this because this is going to be monumental. Well, the current Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs are spot ETFs. So if you buy 1 Bitcoin through the ETF, you own 1 Bitcoin, and it's always 1 Bitcoin. Similarly, if you buy 1 Ethereum through the Ethereum ETF, you own 1 Ethereum. That doesn't change, it doesn't grow, it just appreciates in value naturally alongside Ethereum growth. However, the Ethereum staking ETF is different. So it's yield generating, meaning you're essentially making interest on it. It's likely around 3 to 5% interest per year. Therefore, it's a productive asset. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a non-productive asset. You cannot make a yield on it. You cannot make interest gains on Bitcoin. Institutions like BlackRock, pension funds, and other huge financial entities are very yield hungry. They're excessively yield hungry. Especially as it's looking increasingly clear that interest rates are going to be cut. So if you're a $1 trillion pension fund and you're seeing this growth in digital assets as a form of investment, and you understand, okay, we can either keep funds in a savings account and get, a few percent interest per year, or we can invest in this growing digital asset that is widely viewed as digital silver online, that's being pushed by BlackRock and pushed by all these other financial institutions. Its chart is primed for gains, and you get a percentage yield on it per year. It's a no-brainer. In fact, forget a savings account. Let's not even go there. Let's just stick with Bitcoin ETF, which should get you more gains than a savings account. Why would anybody invest in the Bitcoin ETF unless they're a true Bitcoin believer? But most people who invest in ETFs, they don't care about Bitcoin. They don't believe in the tech. They want money. So you've got 2 options. You've got the Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF, and you've got the Ethereum staking ETF. You've got this Bitcoin spot ETF that can do maybe 50% gain, no yielding, no interest, 50% gain on whatever you invest. And then you've got this Ethereum staking ETF, which is widely viewed as digital silver and a beta to Bitcoin. It's primed for 3 to 4x gains with ease instead of a 50% gain. And then on top of that, you're getting 3 to 5% yield per year. Who in their right mind, with a significant amount of money, would bet on the Bitcoin ETF as opposed to the Ethereum staking ETF? There's no reason to. It's not like Ethereum is this hugely risky asset. Ethereum's safe as well. It's safe. You're making a 4x return and you're getting 3 to 5% yearly yield. It's a no-brainer for big financial institutions. At the end of the day, it's fairly evident that the Ethereum staking ETF will absolutely mog any other form of digital investment or any other form of ETF investment, even stocks. The majority of these trillionaire pension funds, they're not going to put their focus into stocks. They're seeing the President of the United States say that he cares more about cryptocurrencies than stocks. And you seriously think that they're going to allocate the majority of their investments into stocks? No. There's going to be a huge culture shift over to digital assets like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. And I'm just explaining to you why the Ethereum staking ETF will not only have more interest than the Ethereum spot ETF, but it'll have more interest than the Bitcoin spot ETF. And there are billions of dollars of inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETF daily. Imagine what the inflows are going to be into the Ethereum staking ETF. They get price appreciation and yield return on one financial tool. This is like a dream come true for certain demographics with excess wealth. And that's not all. When you stake an asset, it gets forcibly locked up for a period of time. How long that will be for the staking ETF, we don't know, but it will be locked up for a period of time. So think about what that means. You literally cannot sell Ethereum. These trillionaires who are going to be investing in Ethereum literally cannot sell it even if they want to for a fixed period of time. Imagine some bad news comes out. They can't sell. There's not going to be this huge sell-off based on bad news, based on market flows. Ethereum will be very, very strong on dips because the biggest investors literally cannot sell for a fixed period of time. Do you understand that? So due to staking, there is less circulating supply, less selling. Do you realize this will lead to one of the greatest price appreciations in financial history? Because this isn't just crypto anymore. This is traditional finance. This is huge institutions like BlackRock, Vanguard, investing in these ETFs and launching these ETFs. For traditional finance, this will truly be the greatest price appreciation of any asset in history. Mark my words. And just to hammer the final nail into the coffin of the Bitcoin ETFs, at the end of the day, the only narrative for traditional finance to buy Bitcoin is that it is digital gold. And listen, that is true. It is digital gold. And it's admittedly a huge narrative. But look at how many narratives are behind the Ethereum staking ETF. It includes being digital silver. There's the yield aspect. There's the institutional DeFi aspect. So let's say banks want to digitize and go on the blockchain. They're going to build it on the Ethereum network because that is the safest and most tried and tested network. Similarly, if the government wish to publicize their spending on the blockchain, as Elon Musk has already mentioned previously he wanted to do, they would again do that on the Ethereum network. because it is the safest and it is the go-to and it is the most tried and tested. Forget fees. These people don't care about fees. These Jeets with their $50 investments care about fees. They're trading meme coins. Institutions and governments do not care about a $50 fee. And not only that, it is also a deflationary asset. The staking burns tokens. Do you realize how insane this is? Second reason why Ethereum is primed to outperform from here on out is because meme coins are finished for the cycle, and therefore the king of meme coins, Solana, is also finished for the cycle. Meme coins are dead, then the king of meme coins is dead. I predicted this in Crypto Crusaders. When Trump launched his meme coin, I said very, very, very clearly, this will mark the top of meme coins for the remainder of the cycle, and I have been proven right since then. So where will market participants invest that money for maximal return on investment if not meme coins? Low cap utility altcoins. We don't have billions of dollars. Me and you, listening to this video, we do not have billions of dollars to invest. As I said, a 50% gain on Bitcoin is not enough for me, and I know it's not enough for you. So that liquidity will absolutely flow into low cap utility altcoins. Now you might say, well, what if they just go back into meme coins? The reality is, it's very, very clear they won't. The majority of meme coin investors have market PTSD. When you lose 7 figures, when your portfolio drops 80% in a week, you get genuine PTSD from that. Your net worth is just nuked to almost zero. You've gone from 7 figures to 3 figures. You do not want to go back into meme coins after that. You've got PTSD. You're scared. And for those of them who still have some good amount of money left, they're sick of being farmed by these influencers. They're sick of being scammed by pump and dumpers. All of this liquidity is going to flow into low market cap utility altcoins. Why? Because they're not scammy, because they've got actual use case and utility, because they're on centralized exchanges where you can't get scammed, and because you can still get a very, very, very high return on your investment. You can get a 10x, you can get a 50x, you can get a 100x on low cap utility altcoins. Now remember why Solana performed so well, because meme coins were performing well, and you needed Solana to buy meme coins, and people invested in Solana because they knew this. So Solana skyrocketed. Now the same thing here for Ethereum will take place. Because meme coins have topped for the cycle, because they're essentially dead, because they will underperform, all of that liquidity goes to low cap altcoins, and the majority of low cap utility altcoins are built on Ethereum network. They're on the Ethereum chain. So you could say, oh, well, you know, most altcoins are on centralized exchanges. So you can buy them with USDT. You don't even have to buy Ethereum to get them. While that is true, a large portion of the market prefer to use decentralized exchanges. They don't like giving their ID to an exchange. They don't like storing it with the exchange. They'll go through decentralized exchanges. And to buy these altcoins on decentralized exchanges, you need Ethereum. And similarly, as everybody starts to notice meme coins aren't performing and low cap altcoins are performing, that liquidity will shift from Solana. People who invested in Solana because they knew meme coins were performing are now going to invest in Ethereum because they see the direction the market is going in, and then Ethereum skyrockets. So boom, Ethereum entirely replaces Solana's market share. The third reason that Ethereum will outperform from here is due to very simple chart, which I will show you now. So firstly, as I showed you previously, we've got this Solana against Ethereum chart. As you can see, pumped 14x against Ethereum. So Solana has outperformed Ethereum to date. But look here, look at this rising wedge. As you can see, I'll literally draw it out for you. Boom, 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 boom. It is clearly in a rising wedge. It has been trending up against Ethereum. But what's happened here? It's pumped that final pump, and I drew this out in the Crypto Crusaders elite group, and I made it very clear that Solana was eventually going to break below this wedge. And when that started to happen, and especially when it closes below this red line, Ethereum outperformance will go crazy. And altcoin performance will go crazy. And you will see one of the biggest alt seasons that has ever taken place in crypto, if not the biggest. So again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist here. You don't even need an understanding of technical analysis. You can see the uptrend has been broken. It had a bearish retest and rejected. And it's going right down here. By the end of the cycle, it will be around this level here. So it's very, very clear that Ethereum will outperform Solana from here on out. Now let's look at a few other Ethereum charts. So again, such a clear example of how obvious some of this stuff is. Look at this chart. Look at Ethereum last cycle. Again, I've literally numbered it so you can match it up. It's just history repeating itself. You've got the top of the previous cycle, a big dip down, a pump from that dip, and then back down below. And as you can see, there is a trend line, and there's a deviation below the trend line here, and a deviation below the trend line here. Now, after the second deviation, after number 4, look what it does. Boom! Huge parabolic movement for a sustained period of time, up only. Now again, look at this cycle, and you can see that it is identical to the previous one. Again, you've got one here starting off at the top of the previous cycle, nukes down in the bear market to stage 2, and again there's a deviation below this trend line. Pumps up to number 3 here, that says 4 but it should say 3. Back down to the trend line, deviates below at number 4, and then boom, a huge parabolic rally, which will happen. You will see some kind of price movement of where Ethereum goes crazy. That is what's next. And alongside that, as I've said many times, will come the greatest alt season ever. As you can see, I showed you earlier this clear touch of demand and a big bounce from there. And now we're holding over this blue line here, which is strong support. So what can we expect from here on out? I'll draw it again. Very, very simple. You'll probably see some kind of move up towards this zone here. We will definitely see a tag of this range here, right? Somewhere here. And that is pretty much a no-brainer. So what do those 3 charts I have just shown you imply? Well, they show clearly Ethereum as an asset. If you backtest through previous cycles, it has got a bullish structure. And whenever it shows this identical structure every cycle, and I'll show you again with another chart after this, the same thing happens. A massive parabolic move to the upside. And I'll show you this Ethereum chart too. Ignore these red and yellow zones. However, you can see something clear here. Look. You've got this clear deviation below a trend line in 2017 before a huge parabolic move. And then again in 2020, you've got a deviation below the trend line and then a huge parabolic move. And then same here again. In 2025, we have a deviation below the trend line, and we will have a reclamation of the trend line and a huge parabolic move. It does not get any clearer than that from a chart perspective. It's so obvious. It's a no-brainer. And the fact that the market makers have convinced you that Ethereum is done is genius. Because while you're sat there fading Ethereum, they're accumulating. It should be fairly obvious to you from what I've just laid out that Ethereum will go absolutely parabolic. However, that's not the exciting part for us. The exciting part for us is what will happen to altcoins as a result of this. Now, what will happen to altcoins? Well, alt season. And if you know what alt season is, if you've invested in crypto in previous cycles and were here during an alt season, you will know that the gains that are achievable are absolutely insane. They're inconceivable. Imagine your investment now. Imagine getting a 150x return. That is completely possible with relative ease if you know what you're doing. So this is the most exciting part. We don't have 8 figures. We're not BlackRock. We're not happy with a 50% return. We need parabolic, multiple 10x returns. Cool, we've established that. So we capitalize off of this opportunity, off of what is going to happen to Ethereum by investing in low cap utility altcoins. So if Ethereum does a 4x and is currently at 2.5k, if it goes to 10k, some alts will do a 200x from here. Some alts will do a 50x, some alts will do a 2x, and some alts will barely manage any gains whatsoever. The best altcoins primed to outperform in 2025 are gatekept in Crypto Crusaders simply because that information is too powerful to share on YouTube. Crypto Crusaders is my private crypto community in which we have almost 400 active members and over $9 million invested across the board. Our mission is very simple. It's to make sure every single member can capitalize on this bull run, which most likely is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make generational wealth. As you can see, it's been going pretty well for us. With the highly anticipated bull run on the horizon, interest to join has been at an all-time high. And we're actually going to be raising prices and potentially closing signups very, very soon. So if joining a group like this is something you're interested in, I'll put an application link in the description of this video. And in the meantime, make sure to join our free Telegram channel below. Now I will show you an example of a coin that we invested in Crypto Crusaders in 2024. So last alt season, the first alt season, the little blip. So we entered this coin, Claw, at the green zone. Now there's many coins that did more than this, more gains than this, but we're not going to share them because we're still in these trades. But as you can see, look, 20x, 20 weeks is a very, very, very short period of time for a 20x on your investment. Now bear in mind, this 20x, so 20x your investment. If you've invested £10,000, you would be on £200,000 in half a year. That is a £190,000 profit in half a year. People would kill to make that amount in 2 years, in 3 years, as a side investment from 10k, alongside your salary, alongside everything else. Now bear in mind, that was the first little alt run. Now I'll just give you this coin for free because we're currently allocated into better coins. But remember, that was the first altcoin run. That was the first alt season. Which means that was a small little baby alt season. And what's coming next from here is a significantly larger alt season. So remember, big pump, back down to origin, significantly bigger pump. You will see something like that. It will go higher than last time. And let's say, as a rough guess, I'm not going to give you the actual price predictions for it. Let's say it goes to $2 from here. That is a 100x you would make. Do I personally think it's going to go to $2? No, I don't. Do I think, or do I know that there are coins inside Crypto Crusaders that will achieve 100x gains? Yes, I do. Altcoins are currently primed for their second alt season, and I've just shown you it happens every single cycle. And every single cycle, the second alt season is significantly bigger than the first alt season. And as you can see here, the first alt season on this coin was a 20x. Maybe this time it will do a 60x. These gains are unprecedented. You cannot get them in any single other financial industry. You're not going to get them this safely and this easily in meme coins either. You're not going to get them in ETFs. You're not going to get them in Bitcoin. You're not going to get them in Solana. You need to be allocating to low cap utility altcoins if you want a serious chance of getting rich this alt season. You need to realize that these kinds of gains can be genuinely life-changing. In Crypto Crusaders, we had one member who invested $400, and that appreciated all the way up to $21,000 in less than 6 months. With those profits, he was able to pay off his family's debts, his parents' debts. And bear in mind, I will reiterate again, all of these gains that I've laid out, the $400 to 21k, the 20x on Claw, that was in the space of less than 6 months. This next altcoin rally should last around 6 months. Imagine a bigger alt season for a longer duration of time. You will reap unfathomable rewards. So I've laid out a very clear bull case for Ethereum in this video using charts, historical backing and narratives. So do you agree or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments and give a reasoning, and maybe we can go back and forth and I can convince you of this thesis so that you can make life-changing wealth this bull run. If you want more analysis like this, join our free Telegram channel where I give daily market insights and some free trades. Thank you for watching and make sure you subscribe. See you next time.